And a million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
Gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. It's, I'm sure, going to be an interesting show tonight. We're going to finish up our quick discussion on the assessments. This is taking on a life of its own. In fact, someone sent me just before the show started. Someone sent me even the renters are starting to wake up and say, "Whoa, what is this going to do to my rent?" And that's something, when we talk about tax increases and stuff, something that's very, I guess, can be easily not talked about, but they are. But I think we're going to have a lot of new people to the show tonight. Because, again, I think this is a hot topic, and I think it's something that's worth discussing is the process of assessments and what's going to happen as we go over the next couple months. Because, again, I think a lot of people are making some really good points. Your taxes have not gone up yet. Our taxes have not gone up yet. And I love how they make sure they put that word in, yet. So we're going to talk about it. But if you're new to the show, I am Joe Vollano. I am your host, your guiding light through all this craziness and nonsense going on around in the city, in this state, and obviously in this country. So if you have questions, we're here to answer them for you. If you want to call in, like I said, this show works best when you guys are participating in it. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610. Or you can email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. I'm always looking through the emails as we go through the show. And if you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, of course, you could always join in on the chat group, which is up and running and off and running. So always feel free to jump on there too. I try to keep up with that as much as I can. And if I see something interesting, I will jump in on it. But again, if you want to call in, 203-679-9610. I'm sure we all have a lot to talk about today. So we were talking about on Thursday, we were talking about the whole assessments. And, excuse me, obviously I still have this cough. Luckily, I have this waiting. So, I got an ice cube. So we were talking about the assessments on Thursday. Listen, just to point out, nothing has happened yet, other than the fact that the preliminary assessments have come out. Will they go down? Probably not. In fact, if you have an assessment, I'm taking it your neighbors are probably going to go up. So it's going to be very touchy. Obviously, if you want to file an appeal, you can right now to the 20th with the company that did it. And I believe that is online, Linda. She's great at putting up the links for us on our Facebook. So, Linda, if you could put up that the link to the appeal process, I believe it's through the assessor's office. Make sure you do that. That's the first step. Obviously, here's mine. I showed this on Thursday. This is my assessment for my house of what it was to what it is now. And mine's jumped up 40,000 over the last 5 years, I guess. So obviously, mine I have filed for a hearing, and obviously, and if it does not resolve itself through that, it will be very interesting how mine is handled because I am on the Board of Assessment Appeals currently. So I'm sure one of my colleagues and partners there will probably take my case, which will be interesting. But yeah, listen, if you look at my neighborhood and compare it to what I'm paying or what I was assessed at, which again, this company came out to my house. So the company out of Fairfield did come to my house, and I was very nice with him. I let him measure, do whatever he needed to do. And he did, and he was a pleasant guy. So I'm taking it. Mine's pretty accurate. If we're going through the lens of their assessment metrics, my neighbors probably not. So my one concern is me bitching about mine. I want to make sure my neighbors don't go up because my neighbors are significantly lower than mine. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But if anyone saw the Record Journal article today, Commercial buildings, excuse me, commercial buildings went up 6%. And really, and I don't know where they're saying multifamily ones went up, but single families went up the most. And I believe it was 36%, if I remember correctly. Can you believe mobile homes? Mobile homes, the sales increase for mobile homes went up 30% over the last 5 years, which is absolutely unbelievable to me. But, but I do like, and from reading the article, at least people are talking about the mill rate. So for anyone who's not familiar with how this whole thing works, let me break it down for you, because I think it's extremely important that everybody here understands the process. I understand we're all mad about our assessments. I'm mad. I mean, look at mine. I'm paying. It's technically telling me my house is worth $40,000 more than what it was 5 years ago. Is that accurate? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have a high appraisal. I'd rather my house be worth more and the mill rate be lower. I wouldn't want it the other way. Now, in order for my taxes to stay level, the mill rate would have to go down to 24.5. Right now, it's at 40.98, I believe it is, or 93. 42 if you're in the inner city, if you're in the inner district, because they add the two points for your trash pickup, pretty much. So right now, I would be estimated to pay about another $2,500 to $2,600 a year in taxes if the mill rate was to stay right now the way it is. And I understand some residents had 100%. I totally get it. I totally get it. And those things need to be adjusted. There is no way a property went up 100% in less than 5 years. It's just impossible. But what happens now, and this is very important that everybody understands, there is a process, and I'm all for processes. Now you get to argue with the company that did it. And that, I believe, you can register until the 20th. You'll have your hearing. If they don't change it, then you get to file a formal complaint, a formal appeal with the city. And that goes before people like myself who are on the Board of Assessment Appeals. Now, if you're not happy with that, there are the courts, which I don't think anybody wants to go that route. But all I'm saying is that at this particular time, file your appeals. And then in March is when the real conversations start. Because come March, the city council starts debating the budget and setting the mill rate. And that's ultimately what we need to be worried about. Setting the mill rate in March is the most important. So let me give you a timeline. File your unofficial appeal with the appraisal organization by the 20th. You could do it online. And if that is rejected and you're not happy with that, then you could file your formal appeal with the city Board of Appeals. They have to have the grand list set. The assessor's office has to have the grand list set by February 20th. Now, my question is, for all these nonprofits, are they having their tax-exempt status removed from them? Because that was a big argument last year. Meriden Arc, Easter Seals, and a couple others had their tax-exempt status stripped away. Now, every single nonprofit has to reapply this year for tax-exempt status with the city. So for following last year's rules, all these organizations are going to see their tax-exempt status eliminated for a lot of their activities. Not all of them, but for a lot of them. If that is the case, that adds tens of millions of dollars into the grand list. Is that, my one question to the City Hall, is that money going to be in the grand list on February 20th, or is that still up in the air? And that I am waiting for an answer on. Because that makes a big difference for the city council when they start deliberating what the budget's going to be. Now, to me, the budget should stay flat. The budget should stay flat. Therefore, then their big job is, well, what do we set the mill rate at? If we have all this extra money coming in, technically, this mill rate should, if we wanted a 0% increase, should come down to somewhere around 24, 25. Is everybody going to see a 0% increase? No. Like I said, I'm $40,000 over here. Excuse me. Like Mike was just saying on the chat, there are some people that had a 100% increase. They're not going to get a 0 mill rate anywhere near it. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where the average, and if they go by the average that's on here, they want to go by the average. I mean, you're talking about right now, I think like 36% is the average increase. I shared this, excuse me, I still got that cough. So I showed this on Thursday, and these were for the last evaluations. So obviously the last one was 2015. Obviously everything stayed flat, but this was the last big one. It was 2005. If you look at it, in 2005, Meriden was paying 42.2 mils. So that's $42 for every $1,000 assessed. And then the evaluations came out, and you saw it drop to 26.96. You would have to see that kind of drop this year to keep a majority of the taxes flat. To see a majority of the tax flat. Listen, not everybody's going to get it. I definitely do not expect mine to come down that much. So the right side is in district. So if you're in the inner city, the numbers you're seeing there, the ones on the right that are 2 mils more, is your in city, your inner district ones. Your outer district are the cheaper ones because you guys actually pay your own for your own garbage, which again I think is nonsense. Garbage should be for the city entirely. I don't get this, why they do it this way. Doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, so, hey, listen, some people, and this is the point a lot of people make. Some people have been undertaxed for a long time. Listen, who do we have to blame for that? Who do we have to blame for that? We have to blame, I will tell you, I do blame Democrats for people that are undertaxed for a long time because you had chaos in the assessor's office. There are so many things that weren't done because, again, Larry Kensier, when he was here, did absolutely nothing. That's why you had debacles like the water department, why we were overcharged $8 million for over the last 10 years. That's why things like this happen, because there was no accountability. There was no transparency. There was no oversight because you had everything run by Democrats. Some of the times it was 11-1. So a lot of these problems from the past are squarely at the feet of the Democrats of the council. Some of them that are still there today, like Rhodey. So it's absolute. So when people bring up stuff like that, it's exactly because of the Democrats on the city council. That's what it's going to come to. But listen, Mike, to get into when you're talking whole dollars of tax revenue, most people don't understand what you're talking about. And again, when it comes down to it, people care about what their mill rate, because that's the easiest thing for them to understand. Now, if anyone thinks that this city council is going to keep spending under control or flat, is out of their friggin' mind. It hasn't been yet. And I'm not just talking about contractual stuff that has to go up. You have people like Rhodey. You have people like Tomasetti and Jelks and Cortez and LeGrand and Cardona who would love to spend as much money as they possibly can. And that's going to happen. And it's going to be up to people like Councilman Carabetta and Councilman Brunet and Orlett and Williams to sit there and fight this. And I got to tell you, at the end of the day, I better not see fucking Republicans and we the people just sitting there saying, "Oh, we tried our best. We're all unanimously going to approve this budget." It's the dumbest thing I ever hear. I hear year after year. Well, we did the best we can, so we just voted for it. That's not going to fly this year. It's not going to fly. We need to sit there and fight hard. We need to make sure we rally the troops behind you guys and make sure that we are there at these meetings to make sure that our voices are heard. That's what needs to happen this year. And like I said, I'm kind of encouraged by that by reading some of these comments from renters. They're concerned. They're seeing these evaluations. They're reading these messages, these threads, and they're like, "Holy crap! What's going to happen to my rent?" Holy crap! For finally, it's starting to sink in that what happens to their landlords matters to them, and it should. Yeah, listen, referendums. Listen, we did the referendum a couple of years ago. By the time that was all said and done, and this is something most people don't know, by the time the referendum was done, and the city council did their cuts and their increases, we were paying $250,000 more than before the referendum started. That's what happened. That is the truth of what happened with the referendum. All that time, all that hard work, and the council turned around and said, "Yeah, we hear you." And then as soon as you turned your back, stuck it right up your you-know-what. But most people weren't paying attention after that. They're like, "Oh, we did our job. We did the referendum. We're done. We're going home." And that's what the council expects you to do. That's what they expect you to do. The problem in this city is voters have a very short attention span. Very short. And it was proven because we did the referendum and then they went and elected Democrats again. These same Democrats that voted for the referendum went back and voted for more Democrats. It didn't make any sense. The whole thing didn't make any sense. That's what we're fighting against. That's what we're fighting against. This is what we're up against. But again, the only people that could fix this is us. And that's by messaging your city councilors. Making sure they know where you stand. Because I guarantee you, I made my prediction. I made my prediction on Thursday. they're going to cut the mill rate down to about 35. They're going to pat themselves on the back and say, we did a great job. Look at that. Because what have they been peddling for the last year during election time? Oh, 3 years of no taxes, 3 years of no tax increases, 3 years of no mill rate increases. 3 years of no mill rate increases. Not telling you the real story behind that. Whether it was the Eversource money, whether it was COVID money, that was offsetting that. And now this year, they'll sit there and pat themselves on the back and say, oh, we gave you a mill rate decrease. But yet your taxes still went up. Because again, your property values went up $35, $40, sometimes $60,000, $70,000. Don't let them play this game. Don't let them play this game. Make sure you're reaching out to them. Make sure they know where you stand. Because it's going to be on the counselors. That's where this ultimately comes down. Ultimately, this comes down to the city council, and can they control their itch to increase spending? That's what it comes down to. Can they control their spending? And that's something that we're going to be following very closely here. It's something that the counselors should be make sure they're trying to put out there on social media. I know Mike does a pretty good job at on his page of getting the message out, but a lot more counselors should be doing that. Because it's the only way, unless you can get to the meetings, to understand what's going on. But if you think they're going to willingly, if you think that the Democrats on the city council are willingly not going to increase spending to the bare minimum, I think the bare minimum, I think every year is like 2%, 2.6%, I believe, which is your contractual stuff. Your city employees, your insurance, all the stuff necessary to run the city. Usually increases every year. I think like 2%, 2.6%, somewhere around there. I believe we should be able to keep it flat this year. But again, not everybody is being increased at the same amount. And while we do look at the whole number for the city council, it's going to be interesting to see what number they come up with to cut the mill rate to. I'm predicting, and I think I said this right, like I said, 35%, 35 mils, which I think is ridiculously low. I mean, ridiculously high still. It should come down to 30. Really, realistically, it should come down to 26. 26 is where I would be happy with. That's where I think it was. Well, again, we're making big assumptions both ways. We're making big assumptions that the city council is going to be able to control their spending itch, which I don't. If history is to teach us anything, it is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Basically, what they're going to try to do is say this: how much can we get away with without them coming out there with pitchforks? I think that's the discussion right now being had at City Hall and inside the Democratic caucus. How much can we cut the mill rate, and how much can we increase spending on the little things we want to do without the taxpayers coming to the City Hall with pitchforks? That's the balancing act they're trying to play right now. Guaranteed. The Board of Ed, we're going to get into in a couple minutes. The Board of Ed wants a 3.94% interest, a 3.9% increase in funding. They should be embarrassed to send that to the city council after the stunts they just pulled with their whole COVID money, with their whole rescue money. They have a lot of balls to sit there and throw a 3.94% increase in education to the city council and to the city manager's office. Especially, again, after the stunts they pulled with their COVID money and the lack of transparency that they were trying to do. I wouldn't give them a friggin' dime. Not a dime. All the money they're looking for is in their COVID money right now. Use it. That's what it's meant for. You don't need new ballparks on the north end. You don't need outdoor areas for outside learning. It's ridiculous. Grab a freaking mat or something and throw it outside. There you go. Some of the playgrounds, all for. Some of the playgrounds definitely need to be updated. The kids do need to blow off steam. So I believe 100% in that. But some of the stuff they're trying to pay for at millions of dollars. No. Use that money the way it's meant to be and go and put it towards the teachers. If you're saying you need more teacher staff, there it is. You have it already. So the Board of Ed, no. And I said this about 2 months ago when we first started talking about the shenanigans going over at the Board of Ed. They shouldn't be sending anything. Like I said, especially when it was uncovered that their whole survey back in September was a sham. Their whole survey back in September was a sham. What would you like to see this COVID money spent on? When really it was decided back in June. And they had already voted on it. Because as the assistant superintendent said, and I quote, "We don't want to wait for the school year. We want to get extra staff on board before school started." So they passed this whole $23 million plan back in June. And then they turn around and put out a survey asking you for your advice. And then you gave it. And it makes them look good. It makes them look good because they're like, "Oh, well, we're doing everything that we put on that survey." When it was all a sham. They were doing that behind your back in June. And in March, they were talking about it. No transparency, no communication with the parents. At least the city did it the right way and said, "Hey, we're going to do a steering committee." But this Board of Ed, for many years, have been doing whatever they want. And how dare you question them? It's about the children. No way. Those days are gone. And I used to go to that meeting every single year when Mark Benigni, the superintendent, used to do his little travel around the city, trying to persuade parents why they need a budget increase. And I used to ask them the same question every year. Well, what about Alliance grants? What about this? What about that? Alliance grants are going up another $2 million next year, maybe 2.8. And that's to offset the increases to teachers' pay. That's what it's meant for. So the Board of Ed, again, to send this to the desk of the city manager is laughable. But again, people don't pay attention to what the Board of Ed do. I admit. I'll be the first to admit it. Anyone used to say Board of Ed to me, I'd be like, "Yeah, I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that." Until I started really digging into it and finding out what the hell is going on over there. Finding out what the hell is really going on. The Board of Ed really needs a wake-up call, and the Board of Ed really needs to start having a little bit more transparency. And a lot of these projects that they want to do should be immediately halted until they do provide that transparency. Like I said, I still have my FOI. I'm not expecting that for another 2 weeks on every single city official that mentioned the North End Park, the fields. I want to know who came up with the idea, who it went to, who communicated about it, who got the architecture to actually make these plans. I want to know everything about this project. Because it is a waste of taxpayers' money. Whether it's a grant or not, it could be better used somewhere else, and that's your tax dollars, no matter where it came from. Remember, the government does not make any money other than the money it takes from you. Every dollar that is spent is your dollars. And we should be worried about where each and every one of those dollars go. Like I said, a lot of the stuff, we went through most of the list on where most of that money is going to go. All for 95% of where that money is going to for the Board of Ed with their COVID relief money. All for it. But there's that 5%, as with anything. Same thing with city council. You know, for the city council, most people don't realize 90%, 95% of stuff is agreed upon pretty with no contention at all. It's that 5 to 10% that, you know, people just, and you should butt heads on. Because again, I think it's the difference between being a progressive and being a conservative on how you see things and how you want to spend the taxpayers' money, or what the taxpayers' money should be spent on. So this should be a very, very interesting budget season. And it's one I think that most people are going to be really paying attention for the first time. I think this is a wake-up call for a lot of people when they saw these assessments. And like I said, for the first time, I've never heard renters talk about tax increases. I've never heard them talk about this stuff. They're always usually talking about school stuff, public safety, stuff like that. But they're engaged here. And I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people like myself and for others who are involved in the community to make sure that you grab their attention and make them understand what's really going on, and try to get them engaged and involved in the process. All those budget meetings should have a packed house. Now, of course, are they going to do them live? Probably not, which I think is a huge mistake. I think every budget meeting should be at a middle school or a high school so that people could attend it. You could have all the safety requirements you need with distancing from each other, and you wear your mask and all that kind of stuff. You could do that. I think every one of them should be live. And I think as many people that can make it should be there. And know where your money's going to, or where it potentially can be going to. So we'll start that conversation, like I said, in March. Because I think it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation this year. And like I said, if history was to repeat itself, a special session is never going to happen. A special session on assessments is not going to happen, because at the end of the day, the assessments mean nothing until the city council does their work. So having a special session on addressing the assessments will do nothing. Because at the end of the day, really, like I said, at the end of the day, I'd rather see my property values higher and the mill rate lower. That's what you see in a lot of these other towns that we talk about. You know, whether you're talking about, you know, Wallingford, Cheshire, you talk about, you know, all the rich, I would say rich. Well, you can say rich. I mean, we could talk about Greenwich and Darien, where Greenwich has like 11 mill rate, but their property values are so much freaking higher. I'd rather see that, because again, it makes your valuable and your asset worth more. It makes your asset worth more, which is better for you. So it's up to the city manager that decides the meeting venues. I thought it was the chair of whoever it was under the 2-year emergency. Guys, email the city manager. Email the city manager, call his office. Let him know you plan on attending. Make sure you have it in a public place, please. Then I guess my question, Mike, is why are some things virtual and some things not virtual? Or is he just picking and choosing which ones that he wants to? Huh. Okay. Well, listen, that's why he's here. So just turn around and make sure you let the city manager know that you plan on attending. Standing answer COVID. But like I said, some things are in person, some things aren't in person. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. But you heard it. That's who we have to call. That's who we have to go after. So I make sure that he understands where we stand and that we want to be there. So again, I see a lot of people. We have a lot of new people on the show watching the show tonight. So if you want to call in 203-679-9610, we can answer your questions that you have, or you can email us straighttalkjv@gmail.com. Or of course, if you're on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, you're more than welcome to jump onto the message board and leave your comments there, and we'll try to answer any questions you have if you throw them up there. Obviously, as you can see, Councilman Carabetta is on, so obviously he's always more than welcome. He's always happy to answer questions there. And again, if you're not part of his page, Mike, if you could just share your Facebook page, your council page, or someone share it, Linda, if you can, share his council page. He leaves a lot of good comments, and he leaves a good breakdown of where he sees things. And that's something that is needed with your with your elected officials. That's what they should be doing. They should be letting you know what's going on. And Mike is one of the few that actually do a very good job at doing that. So if you could share his page, make sure we get people to get on there. But as far as assessment, I mean, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Yeah, listen, I don't agree with everybody on a lot of things, and that's good. And if we agreed on everything, we'd have problems. I think it'd be very strange. And listen, I'm a very hardcore conservative on certain things. I definitely don't play these PC games. I don't care how sensitive it is, the topic is. It is what it is. I call it the way I see it. So yes, while we do not agree on everything, you know what? We still all need to work together to get, I think at the end of the day, we do have the same goal. I do believe we do have the same goal. I just think somewhere in the middle, we take detours, and I think it could probably clash a little bit more on some things than others. But listen, join his Facebook page because it is a good Facebook page. Of course, he does represent Area 4, which is South Meriden, West Meriden. So, but again, you know, once you're on the city council, you may run in Area 4, but when you're on the city council, listen, you represent everybody. At the end of the day, what your vote does affects every single person. And yes, you are fiscally responsible, which is the most important thing. On the social things, we could sit there and have disagreements on. But the most important for me is looking out for the taxpayers and the citizens of the city of Meriden. And I think that is something we do see eye to eye on the fiscal responsibility of it. And again, you know, if I agreed with anybody 100%, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I thinking for myself? Because if you agree with someone 100%, you really do need to look in the mirror. Yeah, areas do. Like I said, once you're elected, areas do mean nothing. You're a city council. You don't just represent one thing. Everything you do affects everybody in the city. So that's where we're at. So remember, get your unofficial assessment review appointment by the 20th. Get that done. If that fails, then you file your formal with the city assessor's office and the Board of Appeals. March starts the budget process. And that's when council people will sit there and start hearing presentations from each of the city departments on what they want, what they don't need, or, well, they never say what they don't need, what they want or the increases they want. That's when things need to start. That's when things start getting interesting, and you start to get a feel for where things are going. And I think by end of April, I think we'll have a pretty good. This month, January 20th is your deadline for the unofficial. That's to meet with the Fairfield based appraisers who will be here in the city. So you have to have your request in for an appeal, for an unofficial appeal, by the 20th, and you can do that right online via the assessor's office website. So make sure you do that. That's the first step. Like I said, if that fails, if that doesn't meet you're not happy with that, then you can file a formal with the city. And those are the first steps. Thank you, Linda. So make sure we do that first. We got to follow the process. If you don't follow the process, you won't get the outcome you want. Guaranteed you won't get the outcome that you want. So please follow the process. It's there for a reason. Some of these things probably are cleared up during that. Probably this year, probably not. But please follow the process so that when we sit there and go, hey, City Council, I got my letter yesterday. I know they're going out. They're going out. That I don't know, Dan. There's some other things in talks also for me. Remember, the mayor has put out this new rule that you could only be on one border commission. So I know I have been going for the CRB. So I know my appointment for the appeals board is up this year. It will be interesting to see over the next couple of days on which route that goes. Am I going to be able to go on CRB? I have filed my official request for CRB, so we will wait to see what happens. Go back to golf. Now, CRB is where I want. I tell you what, golf must be doing really good. I haven't looked at their numbers or their minutes, but golf. I mean, people were golfing in December this year. And it's been getting increasingly long. I love this global warming thing. I love this global warming. I want to golf in December. I'm sorry. I'd rather be golfing. So, I mean, the golf course should be making a ton of money with the lack of snow and with the decent weather out there. So, oh yeah. So that's just awesome. I love hearing that. But even when I was on the golf commission back in the day, I think right after you, Mike. Because I think you got elected and I took your spot, if I remember correctly. No. Before. Was it before? I don't know. Either way. So when I was on the golf commission, we were still on there, Mike Lubkus. And listen, we were paying a loan back. We were paying a loan back for the irrigation system that we thought we were done with. And Lubkus was like, no, you guys got 5 more years on that bond. It's like, get the hell out of here. No, we don't. And of course, we could never get the numbers out of the finance department. So, and Guy Scaife was fixing that problem before they threw him out. So, but it is great to see that the golf course is, again, I love seeing it packed over there. And I love seeing it packed in November and December. It is a beautiful thing to see. So I absolutely love it. So are we, Mike, I don't want to get into that because that then you're going to watch my face turn red and I'm going to get aggravated. So, but it is nice to see that the golf course is doing well. It's a beautiful course. Tom does an absolutely amazing job over there at the golf course. So Kudos to them over there. I friggin' love them. So great job. We did already talk about the Board of Ed. So I'm not going to get into too much more into that because, again, it's already 7:45 and I want to get to some other things. So we did have rescue funds. We did have a rescue fund meeting, a steering committee. They did approve some more funds that I do want to go over. Because there is a correction I need to make, and I'm always the first to admit when I make a mistake, first submit it. And I will give my praise to the Record Journal, because Record Journal I characterized wrong last time I was on this show when it came to the rescue plan. So let's go through this. So 3 things were approved by the steering committee, and they will go before City Council January 18th. So with them was the health department was approved for $1.275 million in funding. Obviously, if any department in the city needs additional funding right now, obviously it is the health department. They are doing a lot of work, and that is going to pay for a full-time health nurse, school-based health services, daily care, and some other minor things. All for it. I think it's, again, that's what the money is there for. It's supposed to be spent on stuff like that. So I want to see that. The other one was the domestic violence for the, victims of domestic violence for the nonprofit. They got $618,000 over the next 3 years. And that's basically for housing for domestic abuse women. Again, all for that. Yeah, well, Dallas sucks anyway, so I mean it's not surprising. Same thing with the Patriots last night. I loved watching that game last night with the Bills. I thought it was terrific. But again, to the housing for temporary housing for domestic violence survivors, all for it. And this is the one where I got wrong, because the way it was put forth did not say anything about the RJ matching the $300,000 from the ARPA funds. So I am going to sit there and give credit to the RJ, who I have bashed, as this looked like nothing more than a payoff to the Record Journal as it was submitted. But apparently the RJ is matching the city's $300,000. So it's a $600,000 for the Meriden Boost initiative there that they're doing, the Meriden Business Boost. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to give out grants to small businesses for advertising, so they get their name out there, which I think is terrific. I was reading, I ended up having to go back and watch a part of it because I saw the comments from Scarpati about why it was set to just 25 full-time employees. I found that interesting on why it was set at that, since there are a bunch of them, but I was wondering why it was set at that. And I guess they now moved it up that only 50 of the grants are going to be set specifically for businesses 25 and fewer. And I guess there's 150 grants total. So that should be able to help out a lot of businesses. I think that's what, putting it this way, it is definitely worth spending the money on it. I am for that. So again, my apologies to the Record Journal. You don't get an apology from me very often because your paper still sucks. And you still get my money every month because obviously I have to read it for the show. And I need to make sure that people, if something's on there, I stay up. But I will sit there and admit when I am wrong, and I was wrong. So there you go. So $600,000 going to local businesses for marketing, print, digital, and video. So good job on that. So all 3 of those projects, well worth the investment. going forward. So now, obviously, up to the most emailed thing of the day, of the week, really in the last 48 hours. Obviously, people are confused about what's going on with the Republican Party. Obviously, there was a legal notice in the paper. Then it was printed in the Record Journal as required in the legal notice. That made its way over, and of course, everybody blew up my email about, hey, what the hell is going on here with the Republican Party? So let me break down the process, what happened, and then the path forward, because it can get a little confusing. So this year, the town committee, which is set up of 40 Republicans in the city, are elected to be on the town committee. And they represent all Republicans in the city. That's what the town committee does. They sit there and do fundraising. Their job is to get Republicans elected. That's their job. And they're elected by Republicans, and they have a caucus. Well, the caucus did happen. And 40 new members were nominated. Now, once that caucus happens, the secretary of the Republican Party is required to submit those to the Register of Voters, which is Sue Flynn. And that did not happen. It didn't happen on time. So, what does that mean? So, since it was not put in on time, it requires that there be a primary on March 1st. Because technically, as of March 9th, which is the deadline, as of right now, in layman's terms, the Republican Town Committee doesn't exist. There is no one that's a member of the RTC. That's in layman's terms. That's in very high level terms. That's what it means. It means come March 9th, if nothing is done, the RTC has no members. So what happens now? Now, we're correct, as of March. So what happens now is that slate is now going to have to get 250 signatures from Republicans by January 26th. Just like we did with the referendum, Republicans will have to go out and get signatures from 250 registered Republicans in the city of Meriden to sign that petition. Once that petition reaches its 250 signatures and are verified by the Register of Voters, Sue Flynn, that slate will go on March 1st in the primary. And then basically it's just another caucus where everyone just comes, Republicans come, and they vote. They vote for the slate, which obviously there's only going to be one slate, and the problem is solved. And that's it. That's a very high level. So basically the path forward right now is they have 40 members on the slate. That slate will now get 250 signatures from Republicans in the city. And Elaine just posted, they're going to have a drive-through Wednesday from 4 to 6:30 at the North Italian Club and over at the former Republican headquarters on Hanover Road. And you can just drive in. They'll make sure that you're a registered Republican and you'll sign it and be on your way. You don't even have to get out of your car. It's going to be nice. It's going to be very convenient. So once those signatures are done, by January 26th, they will hand those in to Sue Flynn, the Register of Voters. She will again verify each and every signature, make sure they're Republicans. And then it will be submitted to Denise Granby up at the as city clerks. I am not part of the 40. So they'll do that. And then March 1st, Republicans will get together again at a place of the executive board's choosing, and we will do this vote all over again. Once that vote is done, it's submitted back to Denise Grandy, and you have your 40 members. So at the end of the day, there will be no shutdown of the Republican Party here in the city of Meriden. There will not. This is a hiccup. It's an unfortunate one. It was an avoidable one. But it is where we're at. As I am still a member of the executive board until March 9th, until the new town committee takes over. So I will be involved, obviously, in this. I will do my duties as I am required to do to make sure that this gets done. I know Elaine is running point on this. So if you have any questions, make sure you call her, email her. Elaine, put your email up there or whatever. Or message her on Facebook, whatever you need to do. If you have any questions, you could message her. And then we'll get this all figured out. Am I happy about it? No. Far from happy about it. But that is an RTC matter. That is an internal matter that I will not discuss publicly. But, we need to get this done. The Republican Party needs to continue here in the city of Meriden. I think the Meriden Republican Town Committee, I think, has done great things over the last couple of years. And again, I think with some new, fresh faces that will be coming in, I see a lot of great things coming. I think it's way hard. We'll have a lot of great things coming forward. So I don't see it being an issue, and I think, like I said, I think this is a bump in the road. I think there's going to be some things that need to be addressed and some changes that need to be done. But again, that will be up to the new town committee, as I will not be a member of. I have already spoken my piece to the executive board. I'll speak my piece to the town committee when we meet. But I know this party will move forward in the correct way, and we'll see what happens. I wish them all the best once I do leave, and obviously I'll be paying attention. But I have other focuses in my life I need to worry. I'm focusing on now. So, that is the nuts and bolts of it. Again, high level. Won't get into the real, nitty gritty of it, because that's internal Republican stuff, and that I believe should stay there. So, any questions? Like I said, call Elaine. Let's get this done. 250 signatures. We all know we're Republicans, so make sure we get out there and sign this petition. Again, 4 to 6:30 at the North Italian Club and 847 Hanover Road, which is the old Republican headquarters. It's right next door to the American Legion, from 4 to 6:30 this Wednesday. So please make sure you get out there and sign that petition, please. If not, then we'll be knocking on some doors. And I don't want to do that. Not in the cold. But we'll leave it at that. So there is one story I did want to get to, because I like reading the guests. I don't know if you guys do it or not. I like to read the guest writers over at the Record Journal. I find that that's probably they do better. I think they do better writing than the staff at the Record Journal. And I saw this one, and I only had to read the first 3 paragraphs, and then the rest of it was just other people's thoughts. But it was from Lorraine Connolly from Wallingford. And we talked about it here on the show, about the Sacred Heart game versus Lyman Hall and the blowout of 92-4. And I asked the question. I think Mike might have brought it up. One of the Mikes brought it up. And they asked me my opinion on it. And I said, it all depends on how the game was coached. And come to find out, I got the lowdown here of how it was coached. And I'm all for the suspension of the coach. If this is how, as reported in the paper, Coach Tom Limpkin of Lyman Hall stated, Sacred Heart showed no mercy. They played press defense, not letting Lyman Hall handle the ball the entire first half of the game, which they led 56-4. That's all. That's really, I mean, the paragraph, the whole article that she wrote was maybe like 10, 15 paragraphs long. I needed to read that one paragraph, and I got a gist of the whole thing. If you're playing press defense, for a whole half a game where you're up 56-0, listen, that's not sportsmanship. You're just an asshole. Like I said, I coached basketball. I coached basketball a long time. I have never, ever coached a game like that. I'm all for winning because I believe in winning and losing. But sportsmanship has to come into effect at some point. And that coach showed none. So if they're playing press defense on a team that can't handle a ball, no. It's a horrible, horrible decision. And I am for the suspension of the coach. Do I believe in mercy rules? No. No. I don't believe in mercy rules. But I just wanted to update on that because after reading the article, everything came a little bit more clear than what was normal, what was first put out there, preliminary reports. So it is what it is. That's where I stand on it. But guys, we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot. I mean, we didn't even get into the national stuff. I still have. Where is it? I still have all this stuff that I've been putting off for a week and a half already. Eventually, I'm going to get to it. But I try to deal with the Maryland stuff here, but I like to deal with a lot of the national stuff too that's going on because a lot of it's important. Whether it's the Supreme Court with the strike down of the mandate for businesses, I mean, there's so much stuff going on. Inflation's absolutely going through the roof, which is apparent today. I spent $300 on groceries today. And I didn't get. I was looking at it like, what the hell happened here? First time in a long time. So it's just absolutely crazy right now. We have, but again, these assessments obviously are vitally important to make sure you're staying on top of. So that's what we have to do. You have to stay on top of it, and you need to be in communication with your elected officials. It's the most important thing. And I don't need vitamin water. I'm good. Suze it. So we'll talk about this again. Hopefully we'll get to this stuff next Sunday. So we'll get to this. Obviously, if things break before then, we usually throw a show in there on Thursday. Though, for me, take up hunting. I would love to go hunting. I've always said that. I would love to go hunting someday, but I have never been. So I just don't know where you would even go. I don't even know the whole process. I have no idea. But guys, until next Sunday, again, stay active, stay involved. If you see these people that are online, engage them and tell them what's going on. Bring them to this show. Do anything. So make sure you get these people involved. You can be making a difference. You can be making a difference on how this thing turns out. So do it. Guys, until next Sunday, as always, you know I love each and every one of you. For everyone that was new to the show today, welcome, and I hope you return. We have a lot more to talk about. We're here to keep people honest. We're here to make sure that we keep all of our elected officials in check. And like Mike said, we're not going to agree all the time. And if you were here back in March, you would know all about that. But the goal is to make sure that you are informed of what's going on. And that's the most important. So guys, until then, I love each and every one of you. Good night. God bless you. And of course, as always, God bless this amazing country of ours. I love you guys, and good night.
And a million faces formed together, made for elevation. And my soldier won't surrender faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard, love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist.